Hello, Luxury Travel Group. We're so happy to be here today. It's been a couple of weeks of busy travelers, primarily to warm destinations like the Caribbean, Mexico, and Hawaii. So we've definitely been staying busy, and really it gets us thinking that now is really the time to start planning summer 2021 because there is less places open with certainty. And it's actually, we're hearing from our hoteliers that a lot of options are either selling out completely or the room categories that are being desired are very limited as well. It's Janet Semenova and Angie Rice with Boutique Travel Advisors. Today, we're really going to talk about what we've learned about travel thus far as it's really picked up in the spring, as well as what we anticipate for summer 2021 and some of the destinations that we think make for smart travel for this summer, being that they allow for more social distancing, more time spent outdoors, as well as their destinations that we hope will remain open and are reopen as we speak.
I can't hear Angie. Can you hear me? Okay, so hi everyone. This is Janet with Boutique Travel Advisors, and there's a lot of really great options right now for travel. A lot of places that our clients had thought might be opening up have not actually opened up yet. So I think as far as the big question is, what's open today? What do we project is going to be opening up soon? And where can you kind of safely plan travel and expect that the likelihood is high that it's going to actually be able to happen? So we've talked a lot to a lot of our suppliers. We've talked a lot to industry professionals around the world and tried to really figure out what destinations can we safely plan for the next 3 to 6 months, and what destinations should we really kind of delay and not plan until maybe 6 to 12 months out, maybe quarter 3, 4, 2021, or going into 2022. So one of the destinations that we really love is Alaska. So Alaska is beautiful and amazing. And one fun fact about Alaska is that it's not just a cruise destination. So I think a lot of people, when they think about Alaska, automatically think, okay, we have to go on a cruise in order to see Alaska. Yes, Alaska is magnificent from a cruise ship, but Alaska is just as incredible in a land destination. And I'm actually heading to Alaska with a group at the end of June. We have several clients planning really amazing Alaskan itineraries for this summer. Alaska is booking up very quickly, but you can have just an incredible family or adult experience or a group of friends or couples experience in Alaska. And there's so many fun things to do. For example, you can go dog sledding, you can go hiking, you can go kayaking, you can walk on glaciers, you can do scenic helicopter rides, you can mountain bike. So there's really, an incredible diversity of wildlife and outdoors options, and it's relatively easy to get to Alaska, which I also really like because from a lot of cities in the United States, there's direct flights into Anchorage. Some have direct flights into Juneau, but you can get into Anchorage, and then from Anchorage there's also connecting flights to other destinations. So it's a really great destination for people who maybe want to stay in the US but don't necessarily want to be mainland, maybe want to do something a little bit further, a little bit more exciting, a little bit different. And for anyone who's done an Alaska cruise but you haven't done a land itinerary, this is such a fun option.
Absolutely. And I think it's important to keep in mind that some countries that make Alaska their destination of choice during summer months are not as freely open to travel, which allows for less crowds for summer 2021. So an experience to Alaska is really beneficial this year, given that there will be less travelers. but yet the experiences, being that these are outdoor experiences, it's experiencing nature, your trip will not be compromised. If anything, there will be added incentives to traveling to Alaska this summer.
Yeah, I love that. And then some of the other destinations that we talk about are in the mainland United States. So last summer, it was super, super popular to go to explore U.S. national parks. And I think we're going to really see that trend continuing this summer, but maybe in a little bit of a different way. So if you did national parks last summer, and maybe you don't want to do the same exact experience again this summer, you could maybe do something different, like a dude ranch or a land itinerary that is focused on the outdoors and focused on adventure travel, but is not necessarily, focused on just hitting national parks. There's so many incredibly beautiful places in the United States to explore. And for Angie and I mean, Montana and Wyoming are really kind of one of our favorites. It's at the top of our list. And Angie, you want to talk a little bit about why you love them so much?
Sure. I think obviously Glacier National Park, you think of the parks that are available in these wonderful states. I also think it's important to recognize it's the ability to see nature, see animals along the roadside as you're traveling, and the outdoor activities that are available to you, from the hiking to the kayaking and the rafting at all degrees of levels. And as much as we focus on that bucket list items as it relates to hitting those national parks, I think it's really important, especially if you've been to the parks, to recognize a lot of the same terrain and experiences within a national park can be experienced on the outskirts of a town or inside the private oasis of a dude ranch. So remember that you don't necessarily have to hit every national park or necessarily spend all of your time in a national park to experience the true breathtaking views and the activities that we commonly associate with a trip that's built around national parks. Dude ranches, for example, are really filling up fast this summer. And one thing to really consider, it's not just whether or not there's availability that is preferred for your family or for whom you're traveling with that is filling up faster, such as the resorts on these properties. Some of them have your traditional hotel type accommodations, certainly not as many rooms, but they also have 2-bedroom, 3-bedroom, and 4-bedroom configurations, whether it's more of a glamping arrangement or more of a villa or cabin-like. It's hard to call these places cabins because they're so luxurious, but at the same time, we've made calls for certain dates and they're filling up very, very quickly. So in order to really get that true remote destination within a destination, those cabins are in high demand. And I think it's also important with social distancing to recognize the value of staying at a smaller property where you have, maybe a pool that's assigned to just the cabin configurations, or if there's an area that's adult only versus family friendly, and making sure that if that's your destination of choice and you're an adult only property, that there's availability for you to choose the adult only accommodations.
Yeah, and it's funny, like we've been watching Yellowstone and I'm like obsessed with that show. I love Yellowstone. And really, when you think about, some people will ask us like, well, what does that really mean, this whole Montana dude ranch type experience? I think of it kind of like Yellowstone. Like these places are so magnificent, but they're rustic, but they're really rustic in a very elegant way. And they do not compromise on anything. They do not compromise on, on service. They don't compromise on the quality of the food. They don't compromise on activities. They don't compromise on the alcohol. I mean, you can get incredible top shelf liquor. You can get incredible wines. You can get really high-end cuisine while still truly exploring, an authentic outdoors style travel experience. And what I love about it for families with kids is that there's so many activities and it really creates an opportunity to connect, but also there's really no time for screen time when you're in these ranches because you're horseback riding, you're going to the shooting range, you're doing bows and arrows and axe throwing and kayaking and whitewater rafting. I mean, hiking, biking. There's so many activities that it's really, I mean, most people will go for, 5 to 7 nights and say, oh my gosh, I could have spent another week. It's kind of like a luxurious summer camp experience. So I personally love the Dude Ranches. I think that if you haven't done them and you're looking for a luxurious way to have an outdoors experience and you don't want to travel really far, but you also don't want to be doing another road trip where you're in the car, out of the car, constantly driving from place to place. It's almost like a national park in and of itself.
And most of these Dude Ranches have 4-night minimums during peak season, with summer being peak season. So there's also the opportunity to, you're planning on 4 days, but if you have 7 days or 9 days, there's also that opportunity. Maybe you want to incorporate a little bit of a road trip, but not too much. So maybe you fly into one destination, experience 3 or 4 days in someplace like Jackson Hole, and then you road trip to a Dude Ranch, and then you fly out of the city nearest to the Dude Ranch. So it's really a nice opportunity to do a mix of both, where you spend some of your time exclusively on a Dude Ranch and the other time where you're able to maybe incorporate more of a small town feel where you're visiting the national parks from that second destination of your choice.
Yes, okay, let me see if I can get this next slide up. Okay. Can you guys see that? Oops. Okay. Angie, can you see that?
So of all destinations to Europe, those that are probably most likely to be open for the summer months is Greece and Croatia. I mean, we already have some trips being planned. As far as other destinations, there's just that lack of uncertainty, and people just want to travel so much that the risk of creating an experience and a plan is really, having to then cancel or reschedule. No one wants to do that again. So they're a little bit apprehensive about planning Europe for May, June, and even into July. However, there are experiences to Greece and Croatia that are more promising and more likely to be able to allow travelers to experience what they intended to experience, whether we remain in a pandemic. Greece and Croatia offer itineraries which offer a lot of privacy, such as a catamaran sail or staying in more boutique properties, or even renting a villa for part, if not all, of your time.
Yeah, and Croatia really just days ago made the announcement that they're going to reopen. There's still some questions about how far in advance you're going to have to get the test. Right now it's 48 hours prior to entering Croatia, but I mean, we're pretty confident that Greece and Croatia will be open for this summer for travel. And the beauty of going this summer is if they are not as popular, then you might be able to still get some really great value and not have the destinations be as overrun with tourists as they normally would be, especially in peak season and in the most popular places like Mykonos, Santorini, or Dubrovnik in Croatia. So I do think that they're going to fill up, and I think especially towards later summer as Europe opens up, these are very popular destinations for European travelers. So people coming from, Northern Europe visit Greece and Croatia all the time in the summer. So if those countries open up, I do think we're going to see an influx of tourism. But for right now, we do still have some flexibility with the way that we can plan some really fun and amazing experiences and truly explore these magnificent, magnificent places.
And I think it's also really important. There's this emphasis on private touring right now, wherever we travel. And whether it's your preference is to be, more so in a group or in a small group or private, I think anyone that leans towards small group, and I think a lot of people would absolutely prefer private, but maybe it's outside their budget. Right now, more so than ever, we're seeing the ability to create private experiences for maybe 2-3 people below the normal minimum. So if we're able to go to a tour guide and say, look, we've got 6 people, they'd love to experience this privately, can we secure it? And they're typically, it's an 8-person minimum, but they're willing to allow for those negotiations. As soon as travel really, really picks up, it's going to be a little bit more challenging to make those same demands to create private experiences. So this really remains an opportunity to experience tours and activities more privately than ever before.
Yeah, and we don't really see it lasting. I mean, I think the predictions are that travel is actually going to get more expensive. So, and we're not sure exactly what the airlines are going to do long term. Right now, they're still offering flexibility. So if you need to cancel your flight, you might not get a full refund, but you might get a credit voucher, whereas before there was some hefty cancellation penalties. So if you're hoping to travel in the next 6 to 12 months and even into 2022, now is a really great time to secure some of these destinations. And if you're looking at cruises, particularly for 2022, I mean, they are booking up. It's really kind of wild, especially for the smaller luxury cruise lines that, you know, have more of a passenger capacity of, you know, 100 to 200 people on board. Those are booking up into 2022. And there's some really amazing experiences that are coming out, and cruise lines that are doing some really cool things to entice travelers. But the early bird sort of is getting the worm. So for people who are willing to take a little bit of a risk and put down some deposits, it's an amazing time to really lock in those rates.
Absolutely. And I think what's also maybe the general community doesn't realize, or the traveler, is that we have relationships with the airlines and with some hoteliers where they can package the air and the hotel in a way where your insurance can be based on receiving a voucher, which makes insurance a lot less expensive. But that very trip can be, that voucher, if you choose to cancel your trip, can be utilized to plan another trip to any of the destinations where the airline and the hotels have properties. And so there is, you know, still some risk related to some destinations, but I think it's important to realize how flexible the airlines and the hotels are trying to make it for those that are booking travel right now. And again, like Janet mentioned, the travel is really picking up. Prices are likely to increase, and terms and conditions are not going to be as favorable as we move out of this pandemic.
And for those of you who are still looking kind of last minute type travel, Mexico is open, Costa Rica is open, Belize is open. These are destinations that we've had travelers visiting now for several months and have had amazing experiences. So don't forget about, you know, if you want to leave the country, but you don't want to go so far, Mexico. Parts of the Caribbean are reopening, although the Caribbean is a little bit more tricky because it's, you know, certain parts of the Caribbean are British islands, certain are Dutch islands, certain are US Virgin Islands. So there's a little bit more logistical complexity when you're planning a Caribbean vacation, unless you really want to just stay at one particular island. But the Caribbean is a great option as well. And Mexico, Costa Rica, and Belize is really where we're seeing quite a lot of travelers, especially people who, you know, want to stay a little bit closer to home but leave the continental US.
Right, Janet. And let's really talk about like the conversations that we're having with our travelers and what it is that, what factors are playing a role in where they're choosing to travel. And I would say very high on that list is the ability to fly direct from their home-based destination. People are not wanting to spend as much time in airports, so they're looking for those direct flights. And those travelers that like to experience sort of a surf and turf type itinerary where they're spending some time in the near water, whether it's the ocean or rivers, versus time being spent more so in the jungles, they're looking at the opportunity to experience those both of those varying types of destinations within one country. And for that reason, Belize and Costa Rica are very popular right now.
So we also have some exciting announcements that we're going to make later this week, so stay tuned for those. They have been in the works for quite a while, but we don't want to mix our conversation today with our announcements, so stay tuned. We'll be making it very soon, and we hope you guys are going to be as excited as we are about it. And that's all we have for you. So message us, call us, email us, and let's get 2021 summer planned on the books and make it an incredible year. Thank you.
Thank you, everyone. We'll see you soon.